Okay, evening everybody. I'm always giving advice out to friends and family and stuff about starting a business online and start something new. So I thought I would do a Instagram live about e-commerce and my personal experience of what I've learned along the way. So personally, I've been trading online pretty much full time for 4 years, and as a family, we've been online for 8 years. But my first experience of e-commerce started in 2008, where with a friend, I started a kind of small online business at university where we were selling hoodies. And I've learned a lot along the way. So I'll start by just talking a little bit about the history of e-commerce and how it's evolved over time. And there was a magical pivotal moment at around 2012 when Instagram first began to kind of take off. And what was happening with Instagram at the time is that there was a massive onboarding of young millennials around 2012. And after that, you began to get this huge explosion of kind of influencer marketing. Now, at the point of around 2012, a lot of the off the shelf websites and website building products were quite native in where they were. I mean, if we go back to the very beginning of e-commerce and the way that companies started to trade on e-commerce, they had to build their own websites. It was a really difficult and complicated thing to build a website. You'd have to go to a developer or a company that specialized in making websites, and then you're almost at the mercy of a developer to be able to create your website and then deliver and upload all the products onto it, and then for your website to be able to then link into all these third party marketing platforms such as Google Shopping, Facebook, Instagram, to actually get seen within the digital environment. So since 2012 and how the internet has evolved, and through the mass adoption of the mobile phone, it's become much easier to trade online. And even personally, for me, when I started in 2016, the platform that I advocate the most, which is Shopify, was still very native, and you were still relying on a lot of third-party apps to build all this functionality. But the beauty of Shopify and the beauty of using a platform like Shopify is that it's almost a bit like the iPhone, and then it has its third-party stores that you can kind of go and look into to add functionality. So, for instance, if I wanted to put on an offer where if you bought two jumpers you'd get £10 off, there's an app out there for that. So for someone who's not that skilled up in terms of like computer programming and HTML code, it's really beneficial to partner up with something like Shopify, because as Shopify is evolving, their platform is becoming stronger and stronger. Now Shopify in itself is actually directly integrated into Facebook, into Instagram, into Amazon, and then you're able to trade and you're able to get your products in front of a larger audience much quicker. So that's why I'm a massive advocate of Shopify. And if I go back before 2012, a lot of the online stores that you were seeing were almost built off eBay's technology, which then they brought to market under the banner of Magento. But the issue with Magento is that you still need a specialist developer to try and develop your website, and then you're always at the mercy of a developer. So the beauty of Shopify and considering Shopify as your main platform is that it's very easy to get online. And in the past couple of years, their software has just rocketed, because now you can literally open a shop and you can have a till system. I can be on the road. I can process orders from my mobile phone. I can see all the stock levels that I've got here at the factory, or if I've got different locations within the factory, such as our shop stock or our warehouse stock, that can all be split. If I'm going to be ordering products from customers, I can raise an order within Shopify. I can directly email that out to a supplier. They can deliver the goods in. We can check the numbers that have arrived, and then we can just tick a box, receive the items, and that's uploaded into the inventory. So as a small business, right now, it's an extremely good time to consider opening an online store. And especially with the mass adoption of smartphones and almost everybody having a mobile phone now. That the kind of explosion in mobile shopping, the ability to shop whilst you're on the train or the bus or you're walking or just when you've got 5-10 minutes, has changed. Because I used to remember, 10 years ago, you'd literally sit down on your computer and you that would be your shopping experience. You sit down, you go around lots of websites, and you try and find that stuff. But now it's actually quite easy. And then with Instagram and Facebook having so much attention these days, it's so much easier to find your customer, and it's so much easier to kind of like allow them to follow your brand and to follow your story, which is probably the most important thing now. And then when they're ready to purchase, they will. So a big thing that I talk about a lot is the artisan culture. And the artisan culture is all about working with the mind and the body to create a product that you're really proud of, and a product that you believe that you can develop and promote, and tell a story about why you're producing these products and what's the reason behind it. And you can really start to sell what I talk a lot about, which is the authentic voice. And that's the beauty of social media, is that it's completely got rid of the old way of selling, which is, big brand goes to a big like supermodel or massive influencer, or it teams up with a musician, and they're then using that social proof to then sell you a product. Whilst now, because the smartphone has so much capability within it, you've got a camera, a video, you can do things like Instagram Live. You can really start to show the people behind your brand, your vision, and what you're about. And I believe like massively over the last 4 or 5 years, that trend has been growing. But actually, since lockdown and since this kind of huge change in the way that we're spending our time and we're spending our money, it's never been a bigger opportunity to broadcast to everybody what you are about and why you do what you do. And the other big factor right now is, before we would be working for large corporates or large companies, and you'd have to fit into a corporate mold, and you'd be working 9 to 5 under the banner of that corporate mold, and then you'd come home and you'd try and be yourself, but you haven't got enough time to do that. But the beauty of all the technology that we have now is that you can really express who you are 24/7 and broadcast that and sell that story. And I think that's what the consumer really wants to see now, is the authentic voice and the authentic people behind it. And once they trust you and your vision and your products, they will then begin to share and talk about you, which is the old school way of selling, which is all about word of mouth. And to me, all that the digital sphere has done, especially in the last 15 to 20 years, is just taken the old school, honest, trustworthy way of doing business, and it's digitized it. But along the way, a lot of lessons have been learnt. But actually, at the core essence of what you're trying to produce and what you're trying to do is to mimic that human experience online. And finally, the technology is allowing us to do that through video, through Instagram, through all the different mediums like stories, and the way you build up your audience and the way you tell your story. It's accessible to everybody. So if you're looking to start a business, it's, there's two things you probably have to ask yourself. Are you doing this as a hobby, or are you trying to replace your income? And then what you probably want to start to do is just set your mindset around where you're going to go around that. And for me, like especially now in lockdown, a lot of things have happened. The economy is just flipping on its head. It's almost like trying to rush through life and trying to become something really quickly. That doesn't really matter now. And the key thing now, I think, if you're looking to start your own business, is just to start slow. Accept it's going to take a long time. Accept you're going to learn a lot of lessons along the way. But as you begin to dive deeper and deeper and spend a couple of hours a day on it, or a long Saturday on it, and then a few hours here and there, you begin to slowly build it up. And as long as your audience knows that this is a kind of hobby project that you're trying to take into a mainstream kind of entity that you're selling online, people will enjoy watching that journey with you along the way. And the beauty of that is that that your customers become part of your growth, and your customers become your advocates, and they feel like they're part of the business, which is a really important thing as well these days, because that's how you start to generate more word of mouth generally, because people know what you're doing, what you're trying to achieve, the struggles that you're facing, and all that kind of stuff. They want to, they want to see you go down to Royal Mail and stand in a queue and get the products out. They want to see you bringing in prototypes and what you're working on and all the little pitfalls. They want to see you making the products and how you make them. And that's the story that people like to see these days, is the real people behind what you're trying to do. So along with an authentic human voice, what I'm learning more and more is also the importance of a true human customer experience. And I think in the last 10 years, a lot of big business, a lot of online retailers are just trying to like parcel people off into a form and then collect complaints in a text format, and then they don't get back to you, and then you get a robot reply. But what I'm finding a lot, especially with a smaller business, is we can afford to offer more human customer experience, and customers will also be happy to pay a little bit more for that human customer experience, because as we're being distanced more and more from one another, it's really important that we start to see where the technology is actually distancing us ourselves even more. So especially with my business, I'm finding that just simple email inbox, the customer's inquiry comes in, we ping them back an email, we'll get onto them over video call if they're happy to, we'll show them products. And it's just creating that human experience, which is where I also believe as a small online startup, you can really begin to get very, very interested and repeat customer. You can build up a good repeat customer base because you're offering them a very personalized service. And that's the other thing that the big, large corporates can't. Even if you're looking at Amazon or anything like that, it's just one click here, there, a robot reply, and stuff like that. But that you lose that ability to find out more about your customer, especially if you're selling them something that's quite special to you or something that you're making. So the next thing is, how do you come up with a product, or how do you come up with an idea? Well, one of the rules of thumb that I've always been going around is, if you want to build something, whatever you're building or whatever you're looking to sell, or the service that you're trying to offer, if there's 1 million people out there who will like the service, then you've got enough of a market size to just grab a tiny portion of, and then you're on your way. So for me right now in this climate, if we weren't selling knitwear and our family business wasn't in this business, I would probably consider food as the biggest growth opportunity now, because traditionally food's been sold well in supermarkets. It's been branded and marketed very well by large corporates, and they've managed to put all these new products into the supermarkets. But I feel that everybody on the ground, and especially with the movement to a more healthier lifestyle and more healthier food choices, means that actually like that market is absolutely exploding. And I've got friends in Leicester who are now moving towards a more plant-based, vegan, fully organic and sustainable food, and customers will pay an extra amount for that, because I think what also people are realizing now is less is definitely more, especially when it comes to food. And what they want to be eating is quality products. And the beauty of when you're trying to sell quality products online, and in particular food, is that everybody's quite knowledgeable about food, and people want to pass knowledge on to each other about food as well. So if you are going to launch like an online food business, then you've got a massive amount of content to talk about and to communicate to your customer, and you can explain to them, okay, this is why we're creating this plant-based treat, this is why we're choosing these nuts, this is the benefit of cacao. And that becomes a real good narrative, which then launches into your online marketing campaign, which you can roll out across photos and videos and stories for months and months and months. And also through the imagery and the ability to take really nice photos at home and get creative with the raw ingredients, you can create a very high-end looking Instagram page just from your smartphone. So that's the other reason why I think it's such a great time to start selling any service or product online, because it's only really in the last 3-4 years have we all got the capability within our mobile phones and the technology within the cameras to really take high quality pictures and high quality videos and to communicate that across to your customers. The other benefit of a small business is that you can be extremely agile and you can be extremely reactive to changes in the global kind of landscape. it's very difficult for large corporates to adapt because they've heavily invested in factories and distribution centers, and they're tied to developers, and they're not flexible within the market. But as a small business, especially if you can just grow your business from home as much as possible, you know, your overhead structure or your monthly costs are extremely low. They're almost amortized in your normal day-to-day expenses for running your household anywhere. And that's the best way to grow a business, because no matter what's happening in the economy or what's happening in your life, there'll be times where you might have to pull back from the business because something's going on. You know that you haven't got a massive overhead structure behind you, which is going to quickly generate a loss for your business. So that's the other good thing about starting an online business, especially with small items. And I'm a massive advocate that if you can start producing products that you can post through Royal Mail and it can get through a letterbox, you are hitting an absolute sweet spot in the e-commerce world. I mean, one of the biggest things that we struggle with is the cost of postage and pick, pack and returns, because our products, which are jumpers, are quite bulky. Some of them are very expensive. They need to be insured when they're going through the post. We need them tracked and signed all the way along the way. But if you're selling a kind of homemade product, which can be packaged up quite nicely and will fit into a letterbox, you know, you can literally put a couple of stamps on there and get them out. And especially if you've got good repeat customers, that just can keep flowing on and on and on. And the other benefit of something like food or a high volume business where there's lots of people buying into this is that your repeat customer rate will grow, and then you can move into a more subscription model, which also people enjoy quite a lot. So at the moment, you're probably seeing online a lot of local farms are now going online and selling fruit and veg, and that gets delivered home. So it's just a regular thing that you kind of want to set up if you want to start moving quite quickly. But on the flip side, you know, if you're an artist or an artisan, or you've got a more complicated product, then again, you don't need to get that volume of sales going that quickly. What you want to try and produce is just a small number of items, which then you don't mind producing on a regular basis, or you don't mind holding a little bit of stock of. And then you can focus on just selling the story online and showing everybody how it's made and why it's made and what's the benefit that you're offering the customer. So this brings me on to a big thing that I'm about, and all the products that I sell and everything that I kind of put my attention into, I always ask myself, why? Why am I doing this, and what's the benefit for the end customer? Because that's what a customer wants to know when they're about to exchange their money for your product or service, is what's the end benefit to me if I produce, you know, if I buy this product off you. And that is basically the crux of marketing. And sales is very much like, you know, here's a laptop, it's got this processor in, the screen is this good, and it's telling you about it, but it's not explaining why you need it. And if I give you a perfect example, voice control and then Siri, which is Apple's voice control software. Voice control was out in the market for years and years and years, and it wasn't really used that well, but it only took one advert from Apple where they had someone running, you know, down the road, and they hit a button and they say a command, please can you remind me to do this in 2 hours, and they renamed voice control into Siri, and they gave it that human connection. And it was giving an electronic service within a phone a human touch and a human connection, which then took voice control you know, into a phase of mass adoption. And that's the beauty of marketing yourself and marketing your own products and selling the why, is that you can give it that human connection. And that's a really important thing as well when you're starting an online business. So sorry, I keep going to my phone because my notes are on here, but the screen blanks out. The other agenda now, which is huge, is sustainability. And I think everybody is hugely focused on producing sustainable products and selling them. Why? And another great business that I've come across recently is from my hometown, Leicester. So I wear this, which is called a rakhi. Every August, my sisters or my cousin sisters will come round to my house, and they put it on as a Hindu ceremony, and it's a huge thing. And there's always like treats brought along the way, and it's almost like a kind of mini Christmas, but it's just there to bring families together. Now they've just launched this product, but in a completely sustainable manner, which is a huge change within this kind of industry, which is a one-off seasonal product. So the other thing with starting an online business is it doesn't have to be something that you sell every single day. Sometimes I am really envious of people who have a very short window in the year to operate their business. So you work really hard for maybe 4 or 5 months. So let's take the wedding business. Let's say you're a supplier of either catering, or you're a supplier of wedding decorations. For 4 or 5 months of the year, you're working really, really hard. You make all your money, and then you can just relax for another half of the year. So if you want to have a lifestyle where you're traveling around the world 6 months a year, and then 6 months a year you want to be working, looking at a seasonal business is a really good option as well. So this is an example of what I'd call an ultra seasonal business, because it's a 1 day event like Christmas, but you probably want to start your marketing 3 to 4 months before. And then the ability of having a seasonal business or an events based business is that you have the ability to cross sell products from other brands, and that's where online retail makes it really easy as well. So you can sell these as your sustainable like raklis or bands, and then you can add on some sustainable treats, sustainable packaging, sustainable trays, or anything you want for a kind of sustainable party event. And then slowly, because you're unified in one message and you're selling one message, which is a sustainable events, slowly over time your product and your service will attract more and more attention, because you are selling a focused service. And this is why we've done quite well over the last 4 years, is because Google has realized that if it's going to succeed, it has to get customers to the absolute specialist. So 7, 8 years ago, it was impossible for us as Paul James Knitwear to rank high on Google if someone just searched men's jumper, because you'd have Next, Debenhams, and everybody else on the high street coming up first, and then you probably had a load of designer brands, and then we would probably pop up on page 4 or 5. But because we've been consistently online for 4 years now under the banner of Paul James, Google's beginning to realize that every product that I'm putting up, or every single blog that I'm writing, or every single piece of content that's going up around the realm of Paul James Knitwear is a fully specialist retailer of knitwear. And then if I start to target more and more specific keywords, such as wool, cotton, sustainable, ethically made, we begin to rank even higher within a very niche area of search, where there are people looking for that exact product. And that's why, as a small business, finally Google is realizing that we want to promote these small businesses, and we want to make the small businesses that are an absolute specialist findable on Google really quickly, because that's what customers want. Customers don't want to go to a department store anymore. They want to go to an absolute specialist, and they want to be able to purchase very quickly. And with Google's data and the data that they're getting about small businesses, they can literally see how you're bouncing around the website and what is your conversion score, and based on that, their algorithm will begin to keep pushing you up and pushing you up. So again, through an authentic voice, a focused story, and a focused product, you can really start to win now, because the search engines are all behind small business now. So why is now a good time to get online is because it's actually really easy to download Shopify. For instance, you can actually set up the whole store pretty much on your phone as well. You don't need a big fancy website either. You just need a good story, and that story will then lead customers straight into the products. And then if the product resonates with them, they'll purchase. And the final thing was basically the birth of Google Pay and Apple Pay, which literally makes 2 clicks. You don't even have to get your card out anymore. So it's extremely easy for people to make impulse purchases as well now, which is why you get a lot of these really good looking Instagram adverts for, like, for instance, one that caught my eye was this LED light, which just, well, an LED lamp, which looks quite smart, but it just runs up the corner of the wall. And that means that as soon as you can see a really good advert online and it resonates with you, you can make a quick impulse purchase, because Instagram is linked to Shopify. It will take you straight to your store. You've got Apple Pay ready to go, and literally within 3 clicks, which is almost the magic number to make a sale, you can do that now. So as a small brand, you can be found, and the advertising platforms are incredible as well, because now that Facebook and Instagram know their customers and know their audience, they're able to help you put your products right in front of them, and then they're able to give you real-time data back on your advertising spend, the return on your investment, how much are you paying per click, Are the retargeting ads working? And the ad platforms now are actually quite easy to use as well. So the beauty of all of these online platforms is that the guides and the processes to get online are extremely well explained by Shopify, by Google, by Facebook. So you don't need a plethora of professionals to help you initially. You can really start with a very nice, clean, focused message and just try and test, try and test, try and test. For me, at any one point, I'll be trying and testing between 5 to 10 different ads. And then in the background are running almost 2 to 3 timeless ads where I've got all the data and I know that they're working and I know that the customers are repeating on them and responding to them. And again, on social media with the comments and the likes, you'll literally know straight away whether people like what you're doing and not or not. And if you're getting a lot of negative comments online, then your targeting or your advertising is just landing in front of the wrong customers. So then you just need to go back into your advertising platform and just begin to optimize everything a little bit more, and then you're back into that try and test phase. So that's the other good thing with everything online now, is that the advertising portals are very easy to use, and it's just about testing and having a go. So I enjoy Shopify, and I think it's something that if you are looking to get online, you should definitely consider. And that's about it. So I think I've kind of like explained a reasonable amount now. So if there's only 6 people viewing now, so if anyone's got any questions, feel free to pop something in, or we can just call it a day. All right, cool. Cheers. Thanks for watching.